Hello, everyone. How are we doing tonight? So you haven't figured out I'm the guy from Sydney. Sorry, by the way. But seems like a welcoming crowd. Yeah? So I'm Nate Zettna, and I'm from the University of Sydney Business School. I'm a lecturer there at the moment, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about teamwork. But before that, I'm actually from not just Sydney, but the beautiful country of Thailand. So, do people in Wollongong like Thai food?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, that's good to hear. Now let's learn a little bit about Thailand as well. We are good. Thai people are great at giving Thai massages, including myself. But please don't ask for a happy ending. I'm from the beautiful city of Bangkok, and this is actually the Thai name of Bangkok. If you didn't know, according to the Guinness World Records, Bangkok has the longest name in the world for a city. So if you don't take anything from the talks today, that's something new. Now I'm not going to read out the name, but as a Thai person growing up learning English, you really wonder how such a beautiful long name, meaning the city of angels, blah, 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 became Bangkok. And it was just the white people, I'm sorry guys. They couldn't pronounce the beautiful name, so they just went with something short, Bangkok, for something long, Bangkok. I love my country. We're a bunch of really nice people, if you've met Thai people. We smile a lot, we say yes to everything, but we often mean no. And then we gossip behind your back. So now you know Thai people behind the smiles. That's why we work so well in teams. And I'm here today to talk about teams. Not that one that we hate, but hopefully this one that we can hate a little bit less after this talk, teamwork. Don't worry, I'm not gonna make you do any trust falls or anything lame like that. But we all know that teamwork makes the dream work, right? Yeah. And also, if we work so well in teams, it's so much easier to blame someone when something goes wrong. So of course, working in shitty teams ain't great, and we all want to work in happy, productive teams. So I'm gonna give you an example. Recently, I got eye surgery, so I don't wear glasses anymore. Woo! After like 20 years of wearing glasses. I was just lying there, and the doctor asked the nurse a question. This is my surgeon, by the way. And they were about to cut into my eye. And the nurse just was quiet. She couldn't answer the question, even though she had something on her mind. Luckily, my eyes are fine, and I can cross them without trying. But the biggest problem when people work in these team settings are when people are silent. So I study this concept called team silence. Now, silence is a common occurrence in many team and group settings. Think about dinner with your in-laws, or at the funeral, or my first semester with my students. Just crickets everywhere. You ask them a question, you can see on their faces they have something to say, and then they just silence. This is also a common occurrence in the workplace, right? And silence is not just a behavior that's singular to one individual. It can become a shared and collective behavior. It can become quite contagious. Think about that time when your boss asks questions in the meeting and everyone just goes, crickets? Right? I see a lot of faces nodding, yeah. And I'm nodding too, because as an Asian guy in Australia, you often feel quite invisible in the workplace, yeah. But I'm really good at dealing with silence, especially from my dates. They often leave me on red. Now, silence might sometimes sound good, right? Like you don't have to hear about someone telling you to become a vegan, for example, or, oh, this is my dog, it's really cute, and you're just kind of forced to say that it's cute, but you don't really agree. So, but in reality, we know that silence has caused some really detrimental stuff in the workplace. In the early 2000s, for example, NASA had a few space shuttle crashes, and this was actually due to a bunch of engineers collectively withholding information about mechanical faults. in the shuttle, which led to deaths. And this was a collective behavior. It wasn't from one engineer. This is also very common. So from my own research, I work with banks, hospitals, project teams. And the research says that when teams are silent, organizations are making much less money, their customers are much less satisfied. And actually, when I was working with the nurses in the hospital local districts, they were making more medical errors in the workplace when they're not speaking up, collectively. And as part of all this work, I was very lucky to work with CEOs and executives of companies. And you might think that these things are quite important to society, and then you wonder what things are important to CEOs. Money. Yeah. They were like, what is all this silence crap you're studying about? And I'm like, yeah, but your banks are making much less money when your teammates are all silent. I'm like, ooh, okay, tell me more. Tell me more, I want to hear this. But the worst of all is when my dates don't reply me. Now, I thought of some crazy ideas about how we can reduce silence in the workplace, right? Because it's not just finding out what the effects of silence are, but how we can eliminate it or prevent it in the first place. I thought of some crazy ideas. Maybe more meetings, you know? No? I didn't like that. My boss hated the idea. And then I was like, what about some owly screaming? You know, some mandate, some owly screaming. You can let it all out. Say whatever you want. No one would care. Nah, not a great idea either. Maybe some reverse psychology, some meditation, just quiet, so people are forced to say something because it's just super silent. Nah, none of the companies liked it. So we ended up finding two ways. So I'm going to leave you with this, two ways that we can reduce team silence in the workplace. The first one is that your leaders are very important. They need to be humble, like me. But these people might say otherwise. So what does it mean to be humble? What does it mean to have humility? So first of all, your leaders need to be able to admit their mistakes. They need to be able to appreciate and acknowledge other people's contributions. And they also need to be open to people's ideas and feedback. Sounds pretty straightforward, simple, but you might be like, Nate, well, what leader in their right mind would admit their mistakes or show their own weaknesses, right? The CEOs thought the same. But then I told them, those bank branches were making much less money when these leaders were not humble and their teams were much more silent. So like, ooh, okay, now let's invest more in this. The good thing about humility and humble leadership is that it can be trained, unlike other types of traits. Unless you're these people. Now I said there were two things I was going to leave you with. The second thing is that the leader's efforts of being humble would all go to waste if your teams are not committed. That means that if the teams are not committed to the goal, the shared goal for performing well, for the well-being of their patients or the care of their customers, then there's no point of the leaders being humble and trying to improve the team. So it has to go together. Leaders have to work with their followers. Sounds simple, but in reality, that doesn't exist most of the time. So, humble leaders, committed teams, less silence, more money. Yeah? Yeah. So let me leave you with this. Don't believe a word Ronan Keating has to say. We don't say best when we say nothing at all. Thank you guys.